I had been with my boyfriend, Alex, for almost 2 years. We were comfortable, the kind of relationship where you knew each other's routines, favorite foods, and little quirks. But comfort, I realized that morning, can be deceiving. It was a sunny Saturday, and we were heading to the dentist. Alex had been complaining about a sensitive tooth, and I promised I'd come along. The dental office smelled like antiseptic and something faintly sweet, gum or maybe polish. And it instantly reminded me of childhood visits, the kind where you'd sit nervously in the chair, gripping your mom's hand. As we checked in, a woman approached us. She had this calm, almost magnetic presence. She smiled warmly at both of us, and I swear, the air around her seemed to hum. Her name tag read Maya, and she was the hygienist. Something about the way she carried herself, confident, gentle, yet undeniably captivating, made my heart skip. I laughed nervously when she made a joke about Alex needing extra flossing, but my eyes kept drifting to her. Alex didn't notice, of course. He was busy talking about his upcoming work project, rambling about spreadsheets and deadlines, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. I felt this strange, guilty thrill. I was with him, yet every fiber of me was noticing Maya in ways I hadn't expected. When it was my turn for the cleaning, Maya guided me to the chair. Her touch was professional but lingering in a way that made my pulse race. She explained every step, her voice soft but confident, and I found myself hanging on every word. It wasn't just her appearance, it was her energy, her warmth, her smile that lingered in my thoughts. By the time she finished, I realized something uncomfortable but undeniable. I was drawn to her. And it wasn't just a fleeting crush, it was a spark I couldn't ignore. After my cleaning, Alex's turn came. He leaned back in the chair, chatting casually with Maya as she prepared the tools. I sat in the corner, pretending to scroll through my phone, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting to her, the way she laughed at Alex's lame jokes, the gentle way she adjusted his bib, the way her hair caught the sunlight streaming through the window. It was surreal. I loved Alex, or at least I thought I did, but the way Maya moved, the way she smiled, it felt electric. My stomach twisted in a mix of guilt and longing. How could I feel this way when I was sitting right here with someone I'd shared my life with? Then it happened. Alex leaned back, and Maya leaned closer to adjust a tool. Her hand brushed his arm, and for a fleeting moment, she looked at me, and our eyes met. Just for a second. But in that second, everything shifted. There was something unspoken in her gaze, something soft, curious, and yes, inviting. Alex didn't notice. He was too engrossed in talking about his new project, unaware that my heart was racing like a drum. I realized, with a mix of fear and thrill, that I didn't just find her attractive, I wanted to know her, to be near her, to hear her laugh without feeling like I was betraying Alex. By the time his appointment was over, I was internally trembling. I wanted to ask her something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I smiled weakly, feeling like I was holding back a secret that was already taking root in my heart. As we left the office, Alex chatted happily about how clean his teeth felt. I nodded, smiling politely, my mind replaying every glance, every laugh, every moment Maya's presence had made my chest tighten. And deep down, I knew something had changed. The spark wasn't just attraction, it was the beginning of a fire I couldn't ignore. The ride home was quiet. Alex hummed along to the radio, occasionally commenting on the cleanliness of his teeth. I smiled, nodded, and pretended to be interested, but inside, my mind was spinning. Every glance from Maya, every soft tone of her voice, replayed like a movie I couldn't pause. I felt guilty, terrible, even. Alex was kind, thoughtful, and had always been my safe place. But what I felt for Maya was different. It wasn't just attraction. It was curiosity, fascination, a sense of connection I couldn't explain. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how lonely our comfort had made me. We were together, yes, but was I truly alive in that relationship anymore? The next few days, I found myself thinking about her constantly. Her smile, the way she spoke, even the subtle way she moved her hands, it haunted me. I kept replaying the moment when our eyes met in the office. Why did it feel so meaningful? Was it just a fleeting spark, or something deeper waiting to be discovered? I tried to push it away. I told myself it was wrong to feel this way. I loved Alex, or at least I thought I did, but loving Maya, or even feeling this way about her, felt like betraying everything we had. And yet, the thought of not seeing her again felt unbearable. That weekend, I found myself walking past the dental office. I told myself it was just coincidence, that maybe I needed to schedule a checkup. But my heart thumped wildly as I saw her through the glass, organizing tools with her usual calm grace. My breath caught. She glanced up and smiled, as if she remembered me, and in that moment, my resolve began to crumble. Something inside me was awakening, a part of me I had buried under comfort and routine. And the more I tried to ignore it, the louder it became. It wasn't just a crush, it was a pull, and it was pulling me somewhere I had never expected to go. A few days later, I found myself back at the dentist, this time for a routine cleaning. Alex hadn't needed to come, but he insisted, joking that he couldn't let me be the only one pampered. I agreed half-heartedly, my heart secretly racing at the thought of seeing Maya again. The moment I walked in, she looked up from her station, and our eyes met. There was that same spark, a silent acknowledgement of something neither of us dared to name. My stomach twisted, and I quickly looked away, pretending to check my phone. But I could feel her gaze lingering, and it made my pulse race. During my cleaning, Maya's hands were precise, careful, but also warm, almost electric. Every small touch sent shivers through me. She asked casual questions, her voice soft and teasing, and I found myself laughing more than I had in weeks. Alex sat in the corner, flipping through a magazine, completely unaware of the tension simmering in the room. It was confusing. I loved Alex, or I thought I did, but Maya made me feel alive in ways I hadn't realized were missing. Each glance, each smile, each gentle touch chipped away at my sense of loyalty. I felt guilty, yes, but also exhilarated, like I was standing at the edge of something thrilling, dangerous, and impossible to resist. After the appointment, as I stood to leave, Maya handed me a small mirror to check my teeth. Our fingers brushed for a second, just enough to make me gasp inwardly. Her eyes met mine, soft, curious, and something else, something unspoken. I wanted to reach for her hand, to hold it, but I didn't. Not yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every detail, her laugh, the way she moved, the brush of her hand. I realized that this wasn't just a crush anymore. It was a pull, a magnetic force that I couldn't explain, and one I wasn't sure I wanted to resist. The following week, I found myself thinking about Maya constantly. Her face appeared in my mind at the most unexpected moments, while cooking dinner, brushing my teeth, even during conversations with Alex. It was maddening. I felt like I was living two lives, one with the man I loved, one with the woman who had awakened something I didn't know existed inside me. Alex didn't notice anything was wrong. He joked about dinner plans, asked me about my day, and smiled at me with that familiar ease. And I smiled back, but it felt hollow, forced. Because in the quiet corners of my mind, all I could think about was Maya, the curve of her smile, the warmth in her voice, the way her eyes seemed to linger on me longer than necessary. Then came the moment that changed everything. I returned to the office for another cleaning, this time alone. Alex had to work, and part of me was secretly relieved. I told myself it was innocent, just another appointment, but when Maya appeared, my heart raced like it had never raced before. She greeted me with that same soft smile, and there was a hint of something in her eyes, curiosity, maybe, or recognition of the tension simmering between us. As she cleaned my teeth, I noticed the little things, the way her fingers brushed against mine when handing tools, the small, lingering glances, the soft laughter at my awkward jokes. Every gesture made my chest tighten. After the appointment, we lingered for a moment longer than necessary. I wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but fear held me back. And yet, I could feel her presence like a magnetic pull, drawing me closer, daring me to cross an invisible line. As I left the office, a wave of guilt crashed over me. I loved Alex, or at least I thought I did, but Maya had opened a door I couldn't close. I realized that my feelings weren't just a fleeting attraction. They were real, deep, and undeniable. And I knew that eventually, I would have to make a choice. A week later, I found myself back at the dental office again. This time, I wasn't nervous in the usual way, I was anticipating. Not the appointment, but her. Maya. She greeted me warmly, her smile softer, more personal this time. "Hey," she said, and the simple sound of my name on her lips made my heart skip. There was a subtle shift in the air, a momentary intimacy that went beyond the clinical routine. As she worked, she asked about my day, really asked, and I found myself talking more openly than I had with anyone in months. Her presence was calming, magnetic, comforting, but it also stirred something dangerous, something I couldn't control. Every time our hands brushed, my chest tightened. Every time she laughed, I felt a pull that made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. At one point, she paused, looked up at me, and said softly, "You have a way of making people smile, even when they're nervous." Her eyes held mine for a heartbeat longer than necessary, and in that instant, the world outside the office seemed to disappear. I left that day feeling exhilarated, guilty, and terrified all at once. I knew I was crossing boundaries, but it didn't feel like it, at least not entirely. It felt like waking up, like discovering a part of myself I had never allowed to exist. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every detail replayed in my mind, the tilt of her head, the warmth in her eyes, the gentle encouragement in her voice. I realized that my feelings had grown beyond curiosity or simple attraction. I wanted her. Not just in a physical sense, but in a way that made my soul ache. I still loved Alex, or at least the version of love I had built around him, but Maya had become a force I couldn't ignore. She was no longer just the hygienist at the dentist's office. She was the spark, the possibility, the forbidden thrill that I both feared and craved. And I knew, deep down, that my life was about to change. It happened on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I had an appointment alone, and as soon as I stepped into the office, my heart leapt at the sight of Maya. She greeted me with that familiar, soft smile that had been haunting my thoughts for weeks. "Hey," she said, and it felt like the room had shrunk to just the two of us. As she worked, our conversation grew more personal. She asked about my hobbies, my favorite books, my life outside the office. I felt an intimacy forming, small but undeniable, like a secret being shared between us. Every brush of her hand against mine, every fleeting glance, made my chest tighten. I tried to focus on the cleaning, but my mind kept wandering, to her lips, her laugh, the way she seemed to understand me in ways Alex never had. Then she leaned closer, adjusting my bib, and our eyes met. This time, I didn't look away. There was a charged moment, a silent acknowledgement that we both felt the pull. I wanted to speak, to say something, anything that might bridge the invisible space between us, but fear kept my lips sealed. When the appointment ended, she handed me the mirror, and our fingers brushed for just a second longer than necessary. "Take care," she whispered, and the warmth of her voice lingered in my ears long after I walked out the door. Outside, my knees felt weak. I knew I was standing on the edge of something dangerous, something that could change everything. Alex was waiting at home, blissfully unaware, and here I was, heart pounding, thinking about a woman who wasn't even mine. I realized, with both dread and excitement, that my feelings for Maya weren't fleeting. They were real, deep, and undeniable. And soon, very soon, I would have to face the truth about what I truly wanted. The question wasn't if I wanted her, it was whether I had the courage to choose her, even if it meant breaking everything I had built with Alex. A few days later, I found myself back at the office, heart hammering like it never had before. I knew this visit would be different. I wasn't just here for a cleaning, I was here for her. Maya greeted me with her usual warmth, but this time, there was a subtle change in her expression, something softer, more knowing. "Hey," she said, and for a moment, it felt like the entire world had narrowed down to the two of us. As she worked, our conversation grew deeper, more personal. We shared small stories, little confessions, and with every word, I felt a connection forming that went beyond attraction. Her presence was intoxicating, her attention unwavering, and I realized something terrifying and wonderful at the same time. I didn't want to go back to my old life. I wanted her. When the appointment ended, she handed me the mirror, our fingers brushing, and I finally looked into her eyes without fear. I saw curiosity, warmth, and a hint of desire mirrored in her gaze. Without thinking, I blurted out, "I don't think I should be with him anymore, because I feel something for you." For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then she smiled, a soft, knowing smile, and replied, "I've been feeling the same way." Time seemed to stop. In that instant, all the guilt, all the fear, all the questions melted away. I realized that love isn't always predictable, and sometimes the heart chooses where it truly belongs, even if it means leaving comfort behind. Walking out of the office that day, I felt lighter, freer, and more alive than I had in years. Alex would always be a part of my past, but Maya was my present, my spark, my undeniable truth. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely, unapologetically, in love with her. Sometimes love comes when you least expect it, in the most unlikely places, with the most unexpected people. For me, it came in the form of a smile, a touch, and a pair of eyes that saw me in ways I had never been seen before.